Hello, everybody. Welcome to Growing Up in Boston with your friend, my friend, Dave. That's your cue.
Oh, hey, what's that? What's that? What's that?
It's my brother, David. We grew up together in the same house, two different experiences, but we actually love each other now, which is pretty good. Pretty cool. I got pictures, Dave, behind me of us growing up here. Maybe I'll throw some up there in post editing here, post production.
Damn,
But
I was good looking.
so
Wasn't I ever? What the?
you're a cute kid. You were adorable. All the women loved you. It used to piss me off. Gosh, they did.
Still do.
There's a video of Nana kissing us goodbye, like they were saying goodbye to us, and she comes over to me and gives me a hug and kisses me on the forehead. She grabbed your face and just like mushed on it. I was like,
Mike, how about the time we all got allegedly lost down the Cape, and the all four boys was standing there. So it was me, you, Billy, and Dean. You each got the strap.
No, Ricky. Wasn't Ricky?
Was it Ricky? Anyway, each of you got the strap, and then she came to me. She's like, "Yeah, I can't do it."
Right. No, I remember sitting there going,
"You guys gave me so much shit about that."
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you didn't get it.
Yeah, you should have got the beating because we gave it to you.
Oh, right, give me the beating.
That was crazy. I don't know why she was so
Like, why do you think we were gone? Like, they called it lost. I don't ever remember being lost.
No.
We just wanted to get the F away from those freaks.
No, they're all drinking and being crazy, and we just like, let's go for a walk.
Yeah. For like 5 hours.
Right.
I thought it was fun.
It was a blast.
Like an adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, we swam, we climbed trees, we did what kids do.
Right. Yep.
So, all right. So this last podcast we did, that was number 2 of 2. We got some input. Didn't you get something? Somebody said something?
Yeah. So somebody said, they observing, one of our neighborhood friends had a different observation that she was kind of envious about all the freedom that we had. And so it reminded me of, when we would play hide and seek and the street lights would come on and everybody else's mothers would be this cacophony of, calling Janet, and Mom wasn't there. We didn't, she just we never heard her voice
calling us in.
Right. It was, if you want to call that freedom,
Yeah, that's a different perspective. It's funny because we didn't talk about that in the context of freedom last week when we talked about it. We talked about neglect. So a parent not being there, and it's funny because her perspective was she saw freedom. Maybe, and I know who that was, and I know their household, and we don't want to mention names, but yeah, that was pretty confining over there. I was friends with her brother, and so were you, and there's
a fine line between neglect and freedom. I mean, to an 8-year-old, be like, oh, great, they don't have to come in, and we do. Like, that's an 8-year-old's perspective of neglect, right?
Right. But when we walked through the door, there was nobody there to greet us. It was like you just took care of yourself. Or we had some weird babysitter that was probably should never been around children,
Babysitters.
We could do a whole podcast on our babysitters.
Shoes in the oven.
Oh, we need to do a whole one on that. But today we wanted to talk about Hunt Elementary School.
Right. So let me just start off from an eco point of view. These were like 20-foot ceilings, huge, massive, like how many, like probably 25 square feet per child. I mean, it was just a massive, old, turn of the century, wooden windows, freezing all the time. The burner was just like constantly going from like early April all the way, back to November. Just
it looked like the prison from Shawshank Redemption. like it does.
It was a look,
the burner going. It was like
right.
the
right.
cooking people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
weird school.
it was weird. It was, it was kind of cookie cutter for that time. It was turn of the century, and neighborhoods were growing. So, um, but we were talking about some of the teachers that we had, and that were so spent. Like some of the teachers that I had, my father had, and
Yeah.
so he came from. He was a foster child. He grew up with one family, but they never, for financial reasons, they were collecting money from the state. They never adopted him. So he was there from a baby on, but that stigmatized him, and I think in turn it sort of stigmatized us too. I mean, it got like we were the son of the foster kid, right? So that's the sense that I got. Like we started off, you know, as underdogs from the very beginning. Just
Yeah, I remember feeling a certain stigma that was associated, with our family. Karen, our oldest sister, Karen, she was a good student and very well behaved and all that stuff. And so I think she actually probably at the beginning um, stemmed off that stigma a little bit because of her academic prowess. But then, you and I come along, and I won't speak for you, but for me, I was not on that same page, as far as doing good school. I wasn't stupid, but I didn't care about school, so I acted out, and I was pretty crazy.
well, you kind of had a lot to live up to. I mean, the teachers with me, they were like, "Oh, you're Karen's brother." I'd be like, "Bleh." Lower your expectations right now, okay? So
Yeah, I felt that.
I'm gonna
Why
set this
can't you be more
tempo.
like your sister? I like, well, because she has long hair and I have short hair.
Right, right. Yeah. So I mean, but those teachers they were spent. I mean, Mrs. Lonigan looked like if one more kid like puked on the wood floor, she was gonna go ballistic on you. You know what I mean? She just was like had it up to here, and it was in her tempo. It was in her everything about her. She was like she had to be what 75
Yeah,
at least. Maybe
yeah.
she just seemed older because we were younger, but um, that was most of the curriculum. It was like a hierarchy kind of system rather than I don't remember having too many younger teachers.
No, and
Uh,
they weren't empathetic towards situations that you were going through. They didn't really care that we came from a divorce home. I think we were one of the only children at the time at Hunt School that had divorced parents. I mean,
right.
I know that later on,
Broken home.
yeah, broken home, yeah. And we were on welfare. I remember having to get a pink slip or maybe it was blue, I can't remember, but we got free lunches.
Punches,
and
yeah.
and the way they did that, they weren't secretive about it. Like you had to go up and get, the card they punched.
Yeah, it was a card that they punched, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. So
And
you wouldn't get
so
two
everybody
meals.
knew. Everybody knew you got free lunches, and it was
Yeah,
it was weird. I always felt a little strange doing that.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. I remember going to school with food stamps for snack money.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
remember.
bought. I honestly bought pot, like joints from kids with food stamps, like because they were going to use the money anyways to go buy snacks. So they would just not everybody would take them, but there was some
So you started that.
some dealers that took the food stamps. That's not a joke. Like we did that. I did that. That's so crazy. Yeah, but
Yeah,
Hunt School was crazy. I remember teachers being like getting away with being abusive. Like they would hit you, or
right.
throw you up against a
I
wall.
got
Or
body slammed against the wall. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Mrs. Hunt. Uh,
Oh
she was another
God.
one. Just her day had been done 10 years before I got there.
Yeah.
Right. So right.
She
Um,
retired 10 years ago and no one told her. Right. She had no tolerance for any kind of shenanigans. And we were like
but
full of shenanigans.
they were from the back in the day. They were unmarried. If you got married at the turn of the century, you gave up your teaching job. So
Yeah.
these were like dedicated spinsters, I guess, that were just unhappy people. I mean, you kind of equate them to like the older nuns, but they were kind of the same, just bitter, embittered people.
Yeah.
teaching children, and with no patience left, none,
Right.
no, nothing nurturing at all.
Yeah.
Sort of like, especially towards us, I think I really felt like there was a stigma. I remember one of my best friend in 6th grade, Mrs. Whitney, went to his parents and said that they should forbid him from hanging around with me, being my friend. Right. Yeah. She, I was devastated because I couldn't hang out with him anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This is so mean. Like, yeah. They had like I said, they had no empathy for what was really going on in our lives and what was happening, and so they would treat us like they. So in other words, the expectation was, here's the template. You need to fit into it. We're not going to take into consideration your, traumatic life that's going on at home with your, I mean, we'll probably unpack this at another podcast, but some of the babysitters we had and some of the night traumas we had with my mom, with Alice, uh, you know, the people would
Everything that
follow her
goes along
home
with
from
neglect.
clubs and stuff. Guys would come into our house, and then we had to go to school the next day and try to do math.
Right.
It
Right.
wasn't fair. It just didn't
Right.
seem fair.
Right. The playing field was, and we had that stigma, of being the son of Paul Donahue. I mean, those teachers remember him.
And
Uh,
Bobby Donahue, which he did
Bobby
time
Donahue.
in prison.
Right.
He was our uncle, and he did time.
So I often think about those two walking our steps in that neighborhood, dad and his brother. I mean, kind of like like what we did. And
Yeah,
it's an eerie feeling, when I think
yeah,
about that, because, that their household was probably worse than ours, I'm sure, on some level.
yeah.
So, I mean, there are stories about his dad's foster father, pulling out his own teeth. I mean,
What? Who does it? Like, what the hell? I can't even imagine. I know I heard that story. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I mean, he
with
drank, so he
pliers. I can't
probably
even like,
couldn't
oh,
even feel it.
right.
Yeah,
I don't even like a Novocaine shot. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, well, he drank whiskey, so that was the same thing, I guess.
yeah, right, right. But yeah, the schools were, there was no chance of, shining through for me anyway. I mean, and then, I had a slight learning disability. So I have this visual spatial dyslexia going on, and I couldn't figure out my left, to put my pencil on my left thing. So they call it a coordination problem. But what happened was, so I had like a higher IQ in English and history, and then for math and science I was down here. So it all like evened out, and they just pushed me through. So nobody looked at what my assets and deficits were. They just did a math equation and came out to a C average, and then okay, next grade, right? So
And
yeah,
I'm in the education world now. They don't do that.
yeah.
They don't do that now.
I
They
struggled. I couldn't open my locker at Central. I had like this flock of little girls that had crushes on me, and I would have them open my locker for me. Or I'd carry
comes in
all my
handy.
books with me, all of them,
Yeah,
because I couldn't work that lock, and I was too ashamed to ask anybody,
yeah,
to do that. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah, like I said, they're learning, techniques now are taken into consideration, you know,
learning
learning
styles.
styles, learning disabilities, things like that. They have individual learning plans for kids, education plans for kids that and me, I wasn't dyslexic, but most likely ADHD. I couldn't
Oh,
sit
you
still for
think?
more than 2 minutes. Yeah. I mean, you too. I mean, we were classic. I mean, it was like, textbook ADHD guy. I took the test later on in life and went, oh my God, I'm all of these things.
Ding 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 ding.
Yeah. But they didn't, they just thought I was rebellious. They went, oh, he's just rebellious. He doesn't care. No, I just couldn't sit still and listen to you for 45 minutes because my brain was going 90 miles an hour.
Well, so you touched on something last week, and it really broke my heart when you were talking about the anger that you had. So I think, I mean, I won't speak for you, but I think part of the discipline problems that you had stemmed from the anger that you felt, the unexpressed anger that you brought with you every morning. So
Well, that from home, feeling like she didn't understand me. She had these expectations for me that I couldn't live up to. And then I walked into Hunt school and it was the same freaking thing. These people that saw me, they had their image set up for me that they needed me to be, but I just didn't have the tools. I didn't have the emotional bandwidth to live any of those things out. And so my whole life was frustrating like that. I thought for the longest time that I was a bad seed. One of the things I talk about in schools is I talk about how if you take a seed and you put it in a pot with, it's good, soil and there's fertilizer, you water it every day. Obviously that thing's going to grow and it's going to be fine. You take that same seed out, you put it in a bucket of sand and, rocks, and you don't water it, it's not going to grow. And if it does, it's a miracle, right? And is it the seed's fault? No, it's the fault of the atmosphere, right? And both you and I were in the fact, David, that we're not sitting in a bar right now, you know, lamenting over our shitty life, is a testament to what we got. We put ourselves, and I know you did, and I did too. We put ourselves in different environments. We got out of that bad environment, but we were stuck at Hunt. I was stuck at Hunt school because
Right.
it was an environment that wasn't conducive to growth because they didn't care. Once in a while, I had a moment. I remember this moment where I was in 5th grade. I got in trouble, and my teacher sent me down to, instead of going out for recess, I had to read to little kids. And I remember seeing that as a punishment. I didn't like it. But when I got down there and I started reading to these little kids, I wasn't stupid, so I could read. So I read with expression, and these kids ate it up. And I'll never forget that, because it was like they didn't see the stigma that was on me because they were too young to see it. So they couldn't see that I was the rebellious, whatever label Hunt School had for me. They didn't see that. They just saw an older kid down there reading stories, and they liked me. And I remember that having a profound effect on me because I felt good about what I was doing. I was helping those little kids. It was reading stories, whatever. But it actually laid the bedrock for what I do now. I speak in schools and tell stories, right?
Right.
And
it was a raw moment seen through,
yeah,
the eyes of children.
But it happened by accident. They didn't.
Right.
It happened by accident, and thank God, So
yeah, it just was a struggle for me. It was a struggle having a learning disability, being gay, especially when I got up to middle school. I think I told you this story where Mr. Lawson, one of our science teachers, he would flirt with some of the girls. I mean, these are 12, 13-year-old girls. And
he'd go to jail today.
I know. Right. So like he would have them he was a science guy, so he'd have them be his assistants. And you could see him turning red. It was just creepy. But he grabbed me after class. So I hit puberty, and some girls were starting to notice me. So
you were cute, Dave. You were good looking.
He was
all
jealous.
My girlfriends liked you more than me, which I'm still working through with my counselor.
So, but he was actually jealous of that, and he grabbed me. He embarrassed me, first of all, in front of the class. They were talking about he was in science. He was talking about Homo sapiens, and he turned to me and he goes, "How about you, David? Are you a Homo sapien?" So I was starting to be flipped back then. I looked at him. I go, "I don't know, Brad. Are you?" His name was Brad. So I think that was like Alice, early Alice. Anyway, so he held me up to class, and he grabbed my neck so hard that it started to get dark around my eyes. Jeez. And so years later, as I started to unpack that, I realized that he was envious of the attention that I was getting from the same little girls he was flirting with. I mean, so that to me, that was a moment at in Weymouth Public Schools. I mean, this guy shouldn't have been behind any desk, and there he was, and the girls, they were getting attention, and so, they were kind of lapping it up, but it was gross. I mean, and he would get beat red. I remember that. It was like, whoa. I mean, he was in his 40s, 30s anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
So he was kind of outing you. I mean, by saying Homo sapien, he was referring to
it was
homosexual.
picking up on a vibe that he was picking up on already, and wanting to, put me in my place because these girls, I was sort of I was gregarious and, I think I got like class clown and, whatever, those superlatives. And as I unpack it, he was envious of that. He was jealous of a 12-year-old boy, and almost like, put me in the hospital. Michael, I saw like darkness, like when you get up from a tub too quickly or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Like I was starting to get that head rush. I mean, that's how he had a grip on my neck.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Dave, coming out as a homosexual in Weymouth, Massachusetts in the 70s. That's a
dangerous.
book, dude. You need to write a book about that. That's
That
I
was
mean,
just that was
Weymouth,
one
Massachusetts,
instance.
white, middle class, blue collar town, you know,
Yeah,
beat up your wife, I mean, like
yeah, right,
shipyard. I mean, geez
right,
Louise, you came
right,
out and
right. And it was moments like that that kind of pushed me back in, so I learned to adapt and learned to be, somebody that I wasn't. And, but, that was a,
survival was
right,
survival.
right, right. Yeah.
Did
So
you feel like you were betraying? I don't know if you even called it the gay community back then, but
no,
did you? You know what I
I didn't
mean?
even, Michael, I was 12 years old. I had no idea what that meant. Right. So I knew that I was different. But I had no idea, I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. So it was just an odd time. But, like I said, that adult teacher picked up on something and wanted to like squish me down because he was jealous.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because 12-year-olds liked you more than him,
creepy,
idiot.
creepy man.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So,
that's gross.
yeah. So, but I had some great teachers too. I remember one teacher really picked up on my creative writing and, was made a lot of accommodations for me because I didn't, there was one year I got kept back in the eighth grade because I missed 160 days. So I think it was that much. But she would let me come after class and, and it was the only A I ever got in junior high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss Chevelle, remember her?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I had it for
yeah,
homeroom.
yeah. She was, there were teachers like that along the way.
She was cute too. She's a pretty girl, wasn't she?
She was like, she was like
I thought
30, which meant 80 back then for me.
I had so my fourth grade teacher changed my life. It was Miss O'Connell, and up until that point, uh, third grade that was a nightmare. Miss Cicero, um, fourth grade, that lady was great. Like she saw me. I think that's like what they talk about in education now is when you see a student, when you understand their life and where they're coming from, you take the whole body of work. You don't just take, what they do every day, come in, sit down, we'll learn. But their lives are, you got to take that into consideration. And she
Right.
did. I mean, I don't know if she was just beyond her time or whatever, but she saw me. And I had Jimmy Scully was in my class with me, and we were the two class clowns. And instead of like working against us, like pushing us and being, trying to conform us into this put us in this box, she kind of let us go and let us like explore that space. And I remember like she would give us money to go get her lunch, which you couldn't do this today, but she'd give us like a couple bucks and we'd go down to Happy Chef and get her, a sub or whatever. And then and we were fourth grade, so we were 9. We were 9 years old. And we would buzz down to the Weymouth Landing, go get her food and come back. And the fact that she trusted us with that responsibility meant the world to us. Like she could tell me to calm down, I'd calm down. She'd tell me to do my work, I'd do my work because she built that kind of credibility with me, with just naturally in our relationship. And now there are classes that teachers take on how to learn how to do that, right?
Well,
How
like
to,
I don't want to, I don't want to minimize anything, but it didn't really hurt that she was like traffic stopping, drop dead, gorgeous.
beautiful. Yeah. No, she'd lean over and help me with my math problems. I'd be like, help me again. And I'm like, I don't know. She was a cutie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There was another day though. She came in. This is funny. She came in and remember that song? Um, I went to a garden party to
Reminisce
reminisce
with
with
my old
my old
friend.
friend. Is
Yeah.
that Bob? Who is that?
Nah, Ricky Nelson.
Okay. So she comes in one day with a record player with that record, and she's all somber, and she gets the class around, and she starts playing that song, and she starts to dive into what that song means to her. You can't please everyone, but you got to
You
please
can read a
yourself.
lot into that song, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So she was talking about, as you get older, we're 9, like we're 9 years old, and she was like blowing us out of the water with these adult concepts of
It was like a
relational
Beatles theme in that
tension.
song. It was like, yeah.
Yeah. Someday you'll meet your old boyfriend, and you won't know what to do in that moment. We're like, okay, can we go to snack now? Is there Jello involved in this or what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, Hunt
I
School
had some
Davy.
great teachers too. I did. I mean, I can't say they were all bad. A lot of teachers, younger teachers, did pick up on what might be going on in my home environment and made accommodations for that. You could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. I actually sent one of my teachers a thank you card 30 years later, and I think I told you I wrote that article about because there was an article that I wrote for an editorial for the local paper, and I mentioned her in it, and but I remember one time when I came to school with a T-shirt on. It was February, freezing, just a T-shirt, and she said out loud, "Oh, some mother, right? About mom." And I went home and repeated it. And mom went blazing down to that school. It was Sikh school. She went blazing down that school, and I was mortified because she didn't. I thought she was going to take it personally and treat me differently afterwards. She absolutely didn't. But yeah, I
She
remember
knew
that.
the issue was not you.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
But I was petrified that she was not going to like me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, mom went down there and just
Like only she can do.
right.
So I've got a cool story real quick. We'll end with this. I've got speaking of good teachers, I've got a friend of mine who just last night won Teacher of the Year nationally. He got the National Award for Teacher of the Year through the teachers unions. Yeah, he's a great guy. Actually, I wrote a book for teenagers called Value Up. We don't sell it to kids, by the way. We sell the hard copies because we have to buy more, but we give them digital downloads of this. But this is the book, and I wrote it, but Matt helped me with a lot of the stuff in it. So it's Mike Donahue with Matt Hamilton. And here's some pictures. I'm going to put some pictures up of Matt winning the award. And I got to watch the video and see, what I mean, he did, David, it kind of sometimes triggers me when I get around these good teachers because I'm like, man, if we had more of these kind of teachers that, see kids hurting and see broken kids, and they do what they can to fix them and be a good mentor, all that kind of stuff. That's what Matt is. Matt and his wife Stacy is a teacher too. The whole family, they're just amazing people, and I've been friends with them for years. I did a school assembly up there for them back years ago, and the school assemblies we talk about walking around in other people's shoes, and so Matt, prompted by that story, started this thing called the Shoe Club, and it's amazing. In the notes here, in the comments, I'll put a link to his website, and you can go online and watch the video. But man, what a great! So congratulations, Matt. Matt, you're a good teacher. Thank you, buddy. Good job. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Dave and I are having fun. Dave, close us up.
Just ciao for now. See you soon, man. Good to see you, Mikey.
See you next week,
brother.
All right. Peace out, brothers, sisters.